Scott Case has played a whale of a game today, putting the hits on. Out of the shotgun and 4 wide receivers again against the Cowboy nickel with Bates in the middle. Here's a pass in the flat, picked up by the Cowboys. Larry Brown may score at the 30.
The Dallas Cowboys have won 3 Super Bowls in 4 years. Will 1996 bring yet another Vince Lombardi trophy? 29 other NFL teams are out to stop them. The National Football League. No other professional sport has such compelling appeal. Witness the artistry. The intensity. The spectacle.
Marcus dives over for the touchdown for Kansas City. His 100th career rushing touchdown.
Move over, James Lofton. You've just been passed by Jerry Rice in the record book.
And Dan Marino has the granddaddy of them all now. Most touchdown passes ever.
It's America's autumn ritual, stirring up passions that only a hometown fan can understand. I'm Peter King of Sports Illustrated, your host for the 1996 Minnesota Vikings video yearbook, featuring a retrospective of the 1995 Vikings season entitled Big Time Players, Big Time Performances. A special Viking Classic segment, the greatest head coach in Viking history, Hall of Famer Bud Grant. And a look at today's Vikings, the proven stars and those on the rise. How do they stack up against the defending Super Bowl champs? Let's take a look at the 1996 Minnesota Vikings.
All right, man, let's get hot and stay that way.
In Viking vernacular, Dennis Green's words translate to, "Come on, Warren, get us in the end zone."
First down, goal to go from the 2-yard line. Moon takes it, drops back, rolling right, looking in the end zone, fades it in there, touchdown! Amp Lee!
Warren Moon really has become kind of an ageless figure, especially with a lot of the problems he's had off the field. It's amazing to see him continue to be as productive as he has been. One of the secrets to Moon is that he doesn't have personal favorites. He will look for his back. He will look for his tight end. He has really developed Jake Reed as a good secondary receiver to Cris Carter, maybe now the best number 2 receiver with the retirement of John Taylor in the NFL.
On most teams, Jake Reed would be the main man. But with the Vikings, Reed lines up opposite a fellow named Cris Carter.
You put on a highlight tape of Jerry Rice's catches on one monitor, Cris Carter's catches on another monitor, and I defy you to say that Jerry Rice is much, if at all, better than Cris Carter, you know, game in and game out in the NFL. Love the guy's hands, love his fearlessness over the middle, and his speed obviously is still a good asset for him. So I think that this is a guy who, if you can be underrated and go to the Pro Bowl, I think that's what the story is with this guy.
Cris Carter routinely turns small plays into large ones. He's Warren Moon's go-to guy. Big, strong, indestructible. A pass catcher for whom the reception is merely a starting point. In the 2 years prior to this one, he's caught 244 passes for 24 touchdowns. His overall pass catching and receiving package is second to no one's, and he's especially dangerous in his opponent's red zone. Cris Carter, one of the very best football players in the game.
Sets the throw, fires downfield to Cris Carter. Caught! Touchdown, Vikings!
Just as Cris Carter inspires the offense, John Randle is Minnesota's role model extraordinaire on defense.
Nice throw, Kramer. wasn't on me. It's all right. I'll be right back. Be right back.
More often than not, John Randle returns with a vengeance.
I think the key thing here is the word motor. It doesn't matter what the score is. It doesn't matter if the team is 0-15. It doesn't matter what the personal or team situation is. The guy just kind of revs his motor faster than anybody he plays against. To me, there's always going to be a place in sports for the guy who just plays harder than the guy across the line from him. As long as he does that, he'll be a force in this league.
These days, John Randle isn't the only Viking defender whose engine does maximum RPMs. Witness linebacker Eddie McDaniel.
This guy's going to be a force in the league for a long time. And I think he's just reaching that plateau where 1996 is going to be the year where he's no longer the guy in the game plan who surprises you. He's the guy who you're going to see more and more replays of making big plays because more and more offensive coordinators are going to have to account for him by doing some double teaming on him and by doing some specialty blocking on him. He's really going to be a force.
Ditto for several young defensive backs. In particular, a promising young safety who picks off the league's best passers.
I think Orlando Thomas really has a chance to be a great safety. This guy really combines the physical ability and the coverage ability that you got to get out of that position. A lot of coaches are fond of saying the guy's got a nose for the football. Well, this guy had to be close to the league lead in both passes broken up or involvement in plays in 1995 because it always seems he's within 3 steps of a deep ball somewhere on the field.
He's the first rookie this decade to lead the league in interceptions, the brightest star in a galaxy of young defenders that includes Corey Fuller, Dwayne Washington, and Jeff Brady. Men who, together with Warren Moon, Cris Carter, Jake Reed, and a supporting cast of opportunistic youngsters, are aiming to elevate the Vikings back to the top of the NFC Central for 1996 and the remainder of the decade.
As you can see, the Minnesota Vikings possess some impressive football talent. Last year, much of that talent was raw, young, and untested. One reason the Vikings failed to make the NFL playoffs. But those close to the team realized the '95 season was a transition year, when young men learn lessons that will serve them well in the championship years ahead.
Hey Brian, say hi to NFL Films.
Hi.
This is his first game. He's excited, I think. Must be a big one. NFL Films are here.
As much as I like you guys, I'm getting kind of tired of being around the cameras.
The Minnesota Vikings.
So tired.
Veteran superstars and young men barely old enough to buy a beer. Proven Pro Bowlers in the prime of their careers, passing along winning attitudes to aspiring youngsters.
Big-time players make big-time performances.
Whatever it takes to get it, let's get a win on 3. 1, 2, 3, win! Let's go.
They were the least experienced team in pro football, but they fought through the league's 4th toughest schedule and emerged just a touchdown or 2 shy of the playoffs.
A 20-yard touchdown run for Robert Smith. The Vikings beat the Oilers 23-17.
There was 23-year-old rookie Orlando Thomas, who led the NFL in interceptions. 23-year-old sophomore David Palmer, who paced the league in punt returns. 39-year-old veteran Warren Moon, who played some of the best football of his career. They set new single-season Viking records for total offense and total points scored. Only the 49ers intercepted more passes. Only the Cardinals tallied more takeaways. And since 1992, no team has scored more defensive touchdowns than the Minnesota Vikings. Big-time players, big-time performances, looking for that winning mix in 1996. Big-time performances begin on special teams. And in Qadri Ismail, Minnesota owned the second-best kickoff return man in the conference. The highest finish by a Viking since Darren Nelson led the NFC back in '83. Viking opponents didn't fare quite so well.
5, 10, 15, runs into Mitchell. Touchdown, Vikings!
While Orlando Thomas notched one of the season's 2 special teams touchdowns, Robert Griffith and Chris Walsh were the unit's 2 top tacklers. Others in the mix were Tuino Alapate, Bobby Phillips and Richard Brown, Harlan Barnett and Pete Bursich. And then there was David Palmer.
David Palmer eyes a run back from the 26, straight ahead 30, gets a block 35, 40, 45, 50, 45, 30, 35, 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown Vikings, David Palmer. Kawhi trying to set the NFL record for most consecutive field goals.
Viking special teams even made history.
27 yards out, spotted, booted, the kick by Reves is up, and is good. Reves sets the NFL record for most consecutive field goals, hitting number 30 in a row, and he's in the record book.
Against Detroit in Week 2, the Vikings evened their record at 1-1.
Cocks his arm and fires upfield to Cris Ismail. The ball is tipped. Caught by Ismail! 45-40, 35-30, 45-30.
It's a tough ball game. As we know, it takes an awful lot to win a football game in the National Football League. The big thing now, guys, is keep in mind how hard it was. I mean, if we could follow this feeling, we would play the Dallas Cowboys right now. Because right now is when we have the best feeling about what it feels like how to win. Next week, we're an underdog. But when they come in here, they come to our home. We have to be able to play our style of game. Now we are showing some signs of it.
Tiger on the left hash. Spread right, run past 60 counter, double comeback.
Spread right, run pass, 60 counter, double comeback on 1.
Remember, this one's going to happen quicker. Remember, said it's a shorter drive.
Viking-style football is fashioned during the week on the practice fields at Eden Prairie.
Double comebacks, very good. You got to hold up, line. This is a big play for us. You got to hold up
for the most part, it may be as simple as just this and this.
But equally important when preparing for a team such as the Dallas Cowboys is the mental part of the game. Studying defensive alignments and strategies, and projecting ways to beat them.
And you just can't pass up the Orlando or the Houston. By all means, you can always go to those if you want to take a straight shot at it.
Now, just got to make sure we don't have any penalties here.
All right, just go a clean old double right spear, double left spear, rip Denver, not a shoot. Double left spear, rip Denver. Give us a good throw.
Okay, let's go. This is where he's got to make his money. Let's go, Warren.
Moves back, looks right, fires the ball. Caught! Touchdown!
Touchdown.
Jake Reed! The Vikings have taken a 9-6 lead over Dallas.
Well, he held him any damn way. Should have been pass interference. See if we can get it. We got it. We got it.
For most of the game, Minnesota frustrated the mighty Cowboys.
Hey, way to go up front, big boys. Hey, way to stop them. That's a big series there.
Come on now. We just got to finish him off.
41, deep drop. Here comes Randle. He sacks him up at the 50. John Randle. Psycho.
Hey, now, we got to find some way to get the job done now. It's right there for the taking. It's right there for the taking.
Moon drops back to throw, fires. It's caught by Reed on a slant catch. He's inside the 35, dive.
We got him guessing, right? Got him guessing over there, defense now. Let's go. What yard line? 9 yard line.
Spread right, run past 60 counter, double comeback. 60 counter, double comeback.
33 seconds, all we have left.
60 counter, double comeback on 1.
Bring it up! Bring it in! Don't bring it in now!
Back goes Boone, fires to Cris Carter. Touchdown!
whole world was watching that Sunday night game against the Dallas Cowboys, and we thought we could play and play well. We came up just a little bit short. We had some chances. We didn't take advantage of them, but we fought all the way for 60 minutes. We did some good things. I think the big thing that we've got to do now is make sure that we go to Pittsburgh next week that we play this type of game. This game was better than the first two, but not quite good enough. After the disappointing loss of the Dallas Cowboys, we had to come back versus Pittsburgh Steelers. In many ways, the best thing for us to do was go on the road against a team who we knew was going to be tough in the worst conditions we could possibly have. We were ready for the task.
6 picks, half of them by rookie starters. 1 by Florida State cornerback Corey Fuller. 2 by Southwestern Louisiana star Orlando Thomas. Thomas was named NFL Defensive Player of the Week for his work against the Pittsburgh Steelers. But in this game, everybody contributed.
3rd and 8, shotgun for Miller. He's back there by himself, scrambling, firing downfield, picked off by Del Rio. Has a block. He's at the 45, at the 50. Looks to lateral, does to Thomas at the 30, at the 25.
Back-to-back engagements with last year's Super Bowl teams. One, a heartbreaking overtime defeat. The other, a smashing victory. After 4 weeks, Dennis Green's young Vikings were playing big-time football.
I got it, Bull, I got it! You got to love it!
In a recent survey of NFL general managers and player personnel directors, this man was named one of the top 2 outside linebackers in the NFC. It would appear that 4th-year pro Ed McDaniel is no longer a secret weapon.
Just like Clemson Rock, the Rock, straight out of Clemson.
Last season, McDaniel recorded 19.5 tackles behind the line of scrimmage. No other defender in pro football was even close. Joining McDaniel on the outside in '96 will be former Cowboy Dixon Edwards. One big reason Pittsburgh's comeback fell short in Super Bowl 30. Speed and experience outside will quicken the development of middle linebacker Jeff Brady. Forced into action due to injury in his first NFL start, Brady was named NFC Defensive Player of the Week. First-year starter Esra Tuaolo teamed with John Randle at defensive tackle. While on the outside, second-year pro Fernando Smith showed promise at left defensive end. And rookie first-round pick Derek Alexander seized the starting job on the right. Despite 6 new starters on defense, this unit maintained a Viking tradition. Only 3 teams in football allowed fewer rushing yards than the Vikings.
Zach with a snap, drops back, hands it off on a draw play. Giving off to Morris, who fumbles the football. Fuller picks it up at the 15, at the 10. Cuts in down toward the goal line and in for a touchdown. Corey Fuller.
It was Minnesota's pass defense that wasn't always reliable.
Spear the left-hander to throw. Cox fires upfield. Picked off by Washington. The 50. Looks for a block at the 45 and the 4. Advance.
When they came up big, such as this overtime interception against Houston, the Vikings often found a way to win.
One setback, Smith, he gets the handoff, looks for room, pushes the pile still going, 10-5, touchdown Vikings, Robert Smith in overtime.
But during a 3-week stretch in October, despite punishing Tampa Bay's Trent Dilfer, despite hounding and harassing Green Bay's Brett Favre, despite a yeoman effort against the Chicago Bears,
Kramer wants it deep downfield to Conway. It is caught.
The Vikings dropped 3 straight in the NFC Central.
We're on his ass. Hey, we're doing our part. Our part is get to that quarterback. Them linebackers and DB, they got to do their part. You do yours. Don't try to play 11 guys. Play 1.
John Randle is a 3-time Pro Bowl starter.
Come on, get it up, man. Come on. Now lock and load, baby. Lock and load.
He knows only one speed. Perhaps that's why over the last 5 years, he's the NFL's top sacking interior lineman.
Rock and roll, baby, rock and roll!
In Week 10, John Randle showed his teammates the way.
When Green Bay and the Minnesota Vikings play, and in particular when they play at the Metrodome, we've got to come away with a win.
The inspired Vikings pummeled Packers receivers, picked off Brett Favre's passes, and in general, ran the Player of the Year right out of the Metrodome. On this day, youth served experience in big-time fashion. Rookie running back James Stewart powered through the Packers, and the venerable Warren Moon maximized the field position Stewart provided.
Back goes Warren, looking, fires, caught, touchdown! Andrew Jordan takes it, Graham, back goes Moon to throw, leaping catch, touchdown! Fires the ball, it is caught, touchdown! Cris Carter!
The NFC's Defensive Player of the Week saved his best for when it mattered most.
Throws it up for grabs, it is caught, there he is by Brady! A tip ball picked off by Brady at the 27 of Green Bay, the Vikings 27.
This is a long-ass field goal here.
Long snapper Mike Morris, holder Mike Saxon, and kicker Fuad Ravez sealed the verdict. The Minnesota Vikings were back in the hunt. Viking left guard Randle McDaniel has been selected to 7 straight Pro Bowls. He's the veteran anchor of a young offensive line and one of the strongest blockers of his generation. Through the season's first 2 months, Robert Smith was accelerating right out of his footwear, on a pace to set a Viking single-season rushing record. But then, misfortune. On this play, the ball was incorrectly marked short of the goal line. On the very next play, Smith carried again, but a Packer lineman fell on his ankle in the end zone, and Smith was effectively lost for the season. But third-year lineman Jeff Christie and John Jarrett, second-year tackle Todd Stussy, and rookie tackle Corey Stringer went to work for rookie running back James Stewart, who put on several impressive mid-season performances. When Stewart broke a bone against the Saints, the torch was passed to the Vikings' Mr. December, and Scotty Graham responded with 290 tough yards in 3 games in the season's final month. All season long, the Vikings went to 24-year-old Amp Lee, who responded with 71 receptions out of the backfield, the most by a Viking back since 1981, and the 3rd best total among running backs in the NFL. He also produced the Vikings' 2nd longest run from scrimmage this decade.
Amp Lee works through a ball into the 50s to 45. One man to beat, 40, 35, 30, 25, 20. 15, 10, 5, touchdown, Lee.
But the 1995 Viking offense didn't really round into form until Warren Moon righted himself from an early season slump.
Warren Moon's always been a second half of the season player throughout his history. Big plays are starting to come, and when they come with Warren Moon, they come in bunches. Let's just say he got hot.
When Warren Moon gets hot, pass catchers climb to the top of the charts. Jake Reed found the handle on 72 of Moon's tosses. Nine of Reed's receptions went for touchdowns.
Second and goal from the 4. Back goes Warren Moon. Throws, caught! Cris Carter, touchdown, Vikings. Moon rolling left, looks, cocks his arm, fires the ball. Wide open touchdown, Cris Carter. Moon back to throw, cocks and fires. Touchdown, Cris Carter.
Cris Carter's 17 touchdowns were second only to Emmitt Smith. And his 122 receptions matched his NFL record-setting total of the year before, making him the most prolific pass catcher over a 2-year span in NFL history. And so when the passing game got a grip against Green Bay, there was reason for optimism. But Viking fans on the road in Phoenix wanted to see for themselves. Could Warren Moon rally the Vikings to victory 2 weeks in a row? Four touchdown passes later, the Viking faithful had their answer.
Rolling right, Moon throws downfield, caught by Condrey, breaks a tackle at the 40, at the 35, at the 30, at the 25. 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown, Vikings, 50 yards.
Four more touchdown passes buried the Saints a week later. And a pair from Moon to Carter highlighted a December rout of the Buccaneers.
Moon with a snap, backpedals, cocks and fires, caught, touchdown, Jake Reed.
Brad Johnson and Charles Evans finished up against the Browns as Minnesota won its 5th game in 6 tries. Inconsistency was laid to rest. After a 3-5 start, Dennis Green's Vikings were alive and well. Ahead lay a do-or-die showdown against the defending world champions. On a Monday night in San Francisco, the Minnesota Vikings spotted the defending world champions 3 touchdowns before staging one of their most complete performances of the 1995 season.
35-40 and races down the sideline of the 40. At the 35, at the 30, at the 25-20, and out of bounds. Down will try a 29-yard field goal. The hold by Saxon, the kick by Fawad Revez is up, and the Vikings are on the scoreboard. He hits it. Dak receivers right, Reed and Palmer. Back goes Moon, throws a fade. Caught by Cris Carter, touchdown! Likes the 4 on the defensive line. Back goes Young, looking to pass, inching forward, throws it quickly. Intercepted, picked up by the Vikings. Donald break at the 5 and knocked down around the 2-yard line. Wing left is Greg DeLong, the tight end. Cris Carter up on the line at the right side. Back goes Moon, throws in the end zone, caught by Carter. Looks left, fires the ball downfield to Taylor, picked off by Orlando Thomas. One setback is Amp Lee. Moon retreats to throw a quick throw to the end zone. Caught! Touchdown! Jake Reed!
The Vikings tied the score at 27. But in the end, a miracle comeback proved to be just beyond Minnesota's reach.
Here goes Moon, throwing deep downfield to Jake Reed. Incomplete! It slapped down on his forearms as he was diving.
Minnesota lost not only the game, but also any realistic chance of making the NFL playoffs. In retrospect, however, a game like this demonstrates quite clearly how well these young Vikings measure up against the NFL's very best. The offensive line is strong, and Minnesota's versatile running backs are capable of game-breaking moments. The run defense remains one of the NFL's very best. The pass rush ranks as one of the NFL's most productive this decade. And the secondary contains several of the most promising young DBs in the business, eager to make their mark. This is a team poised to pull away from the pack, to regain its rightful spot atop the NFC Central.
Well, no one's more disappointed they're not making the playoffs in 1995 than the players and coaches of the Minnesota Vikings. But one thing we're convinced of, with the experienced players like Cris Carter, Johnny Randle, and Warren Moon, the youthful exuberance of Orlando Thomas, we know in 1996 it's going to be our year. And I don't mean just make the playoffs, we're going to do a lot better.
It's a team with some unfinished business. Proven all-pros with a dozen more in development. Big-time players who give big-time performances.
Now that you've seen the Viking highlight, let's take a trip back into Viking history. In 1967, right around the time Dennis Green was finishing high school, the Vikings found themselves a new head coach. 11 division titles and 4 Super Bowl appearances later, Bud Grant today is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He's a man whose winning in life philosophy earned him a permanent place in the hearts and souls of all those whose lives he touched.
It is a rare day in the NFL when a head coach leaves the game behind uttering words of prose worthy of a Robert Frost poem. But then, Bud Grant's sense of achievement always differed vastly from the often hectic waters of pro football's mainstream.
If you look at all the other coaches, the Paul Browns, the Eubanks, all the great ones have almost all been fired. We've been able to pick where we wanted to live. And we're living and coaching exactly where I wanted to be. I was doing exactly what I wanted in exactly the place I wanted to do it. And I think that's an accomplishment in itself, just to be able to raise a family in one location.
Bud Grant's values were always sharply focused, and they were reflected by a Viking team that was the mirror image of his self-control and discipline. For in his mind, teamwork began with a daily practice of standing at attention for the national anthem, while winning evolved when restless emotion was spared from the sideline and saved for the field. The result was football's most ingenious group of overachievers, a team that gained lasting NFL infamy for frightening kickers, forcing turnovers, and finding ways into the end zone that could never have been diagrammed on a blackboard. The Viking sense of opportunism had no bounds, for even when the harsh reality of Minnesota's early winter came to cast a chilling spell of dismay over opponents, the Vikings went right on breathing their cool air of confidence, a testimony to the Svengali-like powers of their Sphinx-like coach.
He said, you're only out there for 2 hours. You're not going to get sick. You're not going to catch a cold. You catch a cold from germs, not from cold weather. So he believed that. We made us believe it. So pretty quick, we were all believing that cold weather really didn't affect us. But, later on, now that, and I still live here, and it does get cold in Minnesota. And when it is very cold, I go outside, and I always think of Bud saying, cold weather doesn't hurt you. It's not going to bother you.
Being cold is something that is akin to being hot. I mean, you're uncomfortable, but you can function up to a certain point. I think I knew what that point was. I tried to convince the players of that, to the extent that some of them bought it, where Bill Brown or Mick Tingelhoff would just, we'd get out there and the wind chill would be 20 below or 30 below, and they'd roll their sleeves up, wouldn't wear a warm-up jacket and go out, and the other team would, you could see them, they were looking at it and say, those guys are crazy.
Neither rain, nor sleet, nor swirling snow could ever keep Bud Grant's men from delivering their own fire and brimstone on the playing field. But what glory they gained in the Minnesota snow faded into the shadows of the Super Bowl sun. Ironically, what stood as the only pinnacle of coaching success never scaled by Bud Grant also defined his resilient capacity for coming back. 4 times he rebounded from major defeats that might have crushed the competitive spirits of lesser men.
Chuck Foreman on a plane once conducted a private poll. He posed a scenario. So you were thrust into a jungle, 100 crocodiles, agonizing experience, only 1 chance in a million to get you out alive. Who would get you out? And he took a poll, and the unanimous selection of all the players was H.P. Bud Grant. He could get you out of there before anybody could because he knew how to survive. He had some kind of formula.
Bud Grant's formula for success and survival has been his simple precept that before a man presumes to influence the measures that control the lives of others, he must control himself. Unfortunately, in the public eye, this gave Bud Grant the personality of a man who mistakenly got off in Minnesota on his way to Mount Rushmore, where he had a date to be carved in granite.
There are many different sides to Bud Grant, and I think the public only had an opportunity to see one, and that was the stone-faced coach standing on the sidelines, and nothing seemed to affect him. No emotion. But he was a very emotion-filled human being.
I don't deny that he sometimes looks like he's a little cold out there, but as far as his look. Some people called him Stoneface and other things, and the Great Ghost. And well, I knew Bud pretty well, and I could talk to him anytime, and I didn't have any problem. We kid back and forth, and he's probably the biggest practical joker I've ever seen.
Guys would go fishing, and he'd take one of the fish and kind of stick it down in one of the places in their car that wouldn't be noticed for several weeks. And you can imagine what that would do.
I said today that I even saw some history made. I saw Bud Grant smile real big, and I think that's a good sign.
In true pioneer spirit, this local folk hero's rugged individualism ranked him #1 in the hearts of his neighbors of the Great North, where he was never afraid to laugh at an image that was, in some ways, a media creation. Parody, though, was but a small side of this multi-dimensional man. He was a humorist and naturalist who was very much at home in the great outdoors. And he was a versatile athlete who performed for 2 seasons with the NBA champion Minneapolis Lakers before starring with the Philadelphia Eagles as the NFL's second leading receiver in 1952. Yet, for all the competitive zeal that spurred Bud Grant on to win success as a player and a coach, he never lost sight of the fact that football was merely his means to justify a more important end.
Football was my job. Sports have been my life. I've been involved in sports all of my life. And this was the thing that I could do best to make a comfortable home and family atmosphere. You've got 6 children, you come from absolute zero. Your main commitment in life is to take care of your family and to provide them possibly with the things that you didn't have. And you get satisfaction. I get more satisfaction out of providing for my family than I ever did coaching a football game. Bud would teach football, coach football, and be there at the sideline and be a very good coach on the sideline. But when it was over, that was the ball game. He went home to his family. And on the odd day would go into the duck blind. And the player, understanding from his coaching at college and high school, where they made life and death out of this thing, would look at this guy and say, hey, maybe he knows something more than I do. Maybe he knows something more than the other guys knew. He must know because he keeps winning.
Bud Grant's ability to win spanned both changes in his personnel and in the cultural mores of our time. But to the players that he always treated as men, he left a legacy that speaks far less about football and more about pride, leadership, and understanding of human nature. These were the essential values of Bud Grant that will be remembered long after his many wins and few losses are forgotten.
The most important thing any coach has with his athletes is credibility. He has that. I have never known him to embarrass a player publicly for a mistake or even for bad play. I've known him to fire a player for that, but not to cost him his dignity. And the players respect that.
If you couldn't play for Bud Grant, you couldn't play at all. He is the greatest leader of men that I've ever worked with. He taught me more about life than anybody that I've ever been with maybe the exception of my father. He has more common sense than anybody that I've ever worked with. Amazing human being, and one that the relationship I had with him I cherish very much.
I always felt that in order to lead people or to set an example, that you had to provide incentive for them, give them initiative, and let them get the credit for their success as much as you can. There's a quote that I had clipped many, many years ago, and this was a quote by an old Chinese prophet and goes way back to 585 BC. Exactly, it stated that a leader is best when people barely know he exists, not so good when people obey and acclaim him, worse when they despise him. But of a good leader who talks little when this work is done, his aim fulfilled, they will say, "We did it ourselves."